the people of Lorraine, northeastern France, are all too familiar with the sight of wild boars being hunted. For them, wild boars are not ordinary wild animals. They are agricultural destroyers and carriers of dangerous diseases for livestock. Today, we, the people with the mission of controlling wild boars, carried out a large-scale sweep in the Darney Forest and exterminated a large number of harmful wild boars. In the vast forest, we split into small groups to patrol the wild boar tracks. While moving slowly, my friend Daniel stopped and whispered, "It seems like they are coming." Just a few seconds later, a herd of wild boars appeared just a few meters away from us. I quickly raised my gun and fired at the herd of wild boars. The sound of the gunshots seemed to tear the quiet atmosphere apart. Everything happened so quickly that I didn't know how many shots I fired. When the gunfire stopped, we saw several wild boars had been killed, including a very large one. Daniel guessed that it must have weighed more than 100 kilograms. Wild boars usually live in herds of up to dozens. Looking at such a large herd of wild boars, we were both excited and nervous. The shots rang out like thunder. The wild boars that were hit lay down. The others tried to run away from the danger zone. Facing such a large herd of wild boars, it was difficult for us to accurately aim at each one. But with continuous shots, we were still able to kill more wild boars. In these vast hunting grounds, we could not do without the companionship of brave hunting dogs. Their task was to track the prey and chase it until it was exhausted. We often let the dogs roam freely in the forest, but we still had to listen for sounds to detect their location. "There's a dog barking nearby. Come on, buddy," Daniel said, walking quickly ahead, with us following closely behind him. "Oh my God, a giant wild boar," he exclaimed. The wild boar seemed to be exhausted, but it still aggressively tried to attack us. But I shot it down immediately. The sweep was scheduled to last a day. We took a short lunch break and then resumed the search. The dogs seemed tireless as they chased the boar back in our direction. Oh, it was a very large adult wild boar. It ran past us and was shot down by Daniel. Hit by a bullet, the wild boar rolled down the mountainside, and my other two teammates helped pull it up. With such a large body, it must have invaded the farmer's farm many times. By the afternoon, we did not encounter any other large herds of wild boar, only individual pigs moving about. Perhaps the gunfire in the morning caused them to disperse or move to other areas. Although we did not encounter large herds of wild boars, we still managed to kill a few wild boars if they strayed. Indeed, we do not always successfully kill a wild boar with just one shot. This requires a lot of skill and experience because wild boars are very fast. Aiming at the right position is not easy. Partly, it also depends on the equipment such as the scope and the type of gun you use. In the late afternoon, we gradually moved towards the assembly area. We discovered a herd of wild boars busy foraging in an empty area. Immediately, the whole team fell silent and held their guns, preparing to kill the wild boars. We aimed at the biggest wild boar. After a bang, the wild boar fell down. We were quite surprised that the spoils of the day were so big. We collect wild boar and gather it at the final location. People with experience in handling wild boar meat will process it, and we will enjoy delicious grilled wild boar meat with a glass of premium vodka. Our journey is over. Thank you all for following. Please like and subscribe to receive the latest notifications.
Although I've encountered many invasive species before, wild boars remain among the most destructive and persistent creatures I've ever faced. They not only ravage crops, but also test the patience of even the most seasoned hunters. Today, we return to a familiar mission, but with a twist. This time, we're hunting wild boars from the sky, aboard a helicopter. A thrilling, breathtaking, and visually stunning journey awaits. Let's dive into this spectacular hunt together. Taking off early in the Robinson, our 44 helicopter, we quickly stabilized our position, gripping our rifles firmly and ready for action. The rotor blades sliced through the air, mixing with the echo of gunfire from Linda and me, creating an intense atmosphere midair. From above, we had a clear view of the terrain, targeting the boars frantically dashing across the fields below. However, their incredible speed and ability to change direction meant that some required multiple shots before they were finally taken down. The helicopter kept circling, moving toward the central area. On the ground, wild boars of all sizes were scrambling to escape. We didn't give them a chance to flee. Lowering our altitude, we aimed at the familiar dark figures. A barrage of bullets followed. Just like that, several more candidates were added to the takedown list. Thick bushes are always a favorite hiding spot for wild boars, giving them cover after every chase. As the herd panicked and scattered, they weaved through the dense underbrush, but from our aerial view, none of their movements could remain hidden. After a few missed shots early on, I regained my composure and shooting rhythm. Shot by shot, my aim improved, and no matter how agile they were, the boars eventually fell to precise, decisive fire from above. After a short lunch break, the helicopter roared back to life and we resumed our pursuit. As soon as the first target appeared, I didn't hesitate. I pulled the trigger and dropped it in an instant. A large herd of wild boars became our next opponents. They tried to scatter and escape, but it was no use. The helicopter locked in, closed the gap, and one by one, each target was taken down. In just a few minutes, nearly the entire herd was wiped out, a clear testament to the superior effectiveness of aerial hunting over traditional ground methods. The helicopter swiftly turned toward a vast open field. Holding our altitude, we focused intensely and locked onto our targets. The boars split up, sprinting in all directions in sheer panic. It was the perfect moment. Gunfire erupted, each bullet fired with precision and force. Each hit caused the boars to stumble, tumble across the field, and lie still, ending their trail of destruction in an instant. Look at that, another herd, this time even larger, probably over 20 strong. Our entire team locked in and unleashed a barrage of fire. In a matter of seconds, gunshots echoed rapidly, and boar after boar dropped across the field. There was no escaping fate. Just when we thought the hunt was over, we stumbled upon a few stragglers on the way back to the rendezvous point. With a single shot, they dropped where they stood, motionless. This hunting trip wrapped up with a series of incredibly satisfying takedowns. Wild boars kept falling, so many that we eventually lost count. Still, that number barely made a dent compared to how fast this species can multiply.
the afternoon when the sun was about to set, my neighbor told me that my family's field was being invaded by wild boars. Without any preparation, I grabbed my hunting rifle and rushed straight to the field. I was familiar with these wild boars, as they often appeared and destroyed our vegetable gardens and crops. However, it was very difficult to detect them. Today was my chance to destroy these destroyers. As soon as I moved to the field, I saw a herd of wild boars gnawing on the sweet potato plants I planted. It seemed that they were very familiar with this destruction, so each wild boar leisurely gnawed. There were 3 wild boars of quite large size and a herd of small wild boars. I finally understood why our crops were so severely damaged. Seeing the wild boars trampling on the sweet potato plants, gnawing and biting them made me extremely angry. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to immediately open fire to protect the crops. One shot rang out very loudly. A grey wild boar was hit and rushed towards the thick grass on the bank. I quickly collapsed. The remaining wild boars also hurriedly ran into the bushes to hide. That also made me extremely excited, because after many failed ambushes, I was finally able to kill the first saboteur. But it didn't stop there. I continued to check the entire field. In front of me was an extremely crowded herd of wild boars. My blood boiled. The whole herd of pigs were bowing their heads looking for food. I immediately fired a shot, hitting the largest pig in the herd. The shot wounded the wild boar and slowed its escape speed. It had just entered the wheat field that we had just planted. On it, every newly planted piece of land had been ploughed by them, leaving no trace of wheat. My shotgun wasn't really good, so I had to try to time my approach and shoot. The pigs quickly disappeared into the bushes. Here it is. Wild boar have quickly reappeared. They travel in packs, so each time they sweep across the field, they cause a lot of damage. My first target is the largest wild boar, which is black and moves alone. The whole herd is moving towards the flowering peas. It is unimaginable if the pigs destroy them overnight, whether these peas will survive until we can harvest them. The pigs are quite comfortable foraging and running around the field, but they are also very alert. At the slightest noise, they will immediately observe and be ready to run away. Not letting the opportunity pass, I opened fire on the nearest wild boar. Quickly shot on the spot. After the sky was about to darken, the noisy sound of wild boars echoed throughout the field. Worried that the wheat that was growing well would be destroyed, I was determined to hunt down and kill these wild boars. Here it was, right in the middle of the field. Another herd of wild boars was quietly feeding. The largest wild boar had just moved to the vegetable patch we had just planted. It was alert to my presence, but then the wild boar continued to nibble on the vegetable plants. They were too alert, and then there was a sign of danger. The wild boar immediately ran towards the wheat field. I had to wait a long time to find the most favorable opportunity. About 30 minutes later, a herd of wild boars moved to my vegetable patch to feed. While they were chewing, I fired a shot, successfully killing a wild boar. It immediately fell down, laying motionless on the spot, and the other wild boars were scared and ran away. After scaring away the pigs in the vegetable garden, I moved along the wheat field. Here the wild boars were also extremely ferocious, because the wheat here was in full bloom, so they were enjoying a delicious feast. They trampled the wheat, entered the middle of the field, and started to gnaw. dim light, the wild boars were still very visible. In just a moment, they ran towards the nearby forest. It took me a long time to ambush them before I could find a herd of wild boars feeding. They ran between the wheat fields, wary of my presence. All three large wild boars fled together. I had absolutely no chance to shoot. It was getting dark, so I decided to go home. However, when I passed by the fields near my house, I spotted two giant wild boars. They were moving slowly across the fields. Light was fading, and I could barely see the pigs. However, I still had to wait, looking for the most suitable moment to pull the trigger. And then a gunshot suddenly rang out, taking down the wild boar in the darkness. The rest were scared and ran away at lightning speed. So I had taken down the giant wild boars on today's hunt. This would be a good sign for the fields we had just planted. Although I chased the wild boars away from the fields tonight, I knew they would soon return, and this was the best food source, so I would definitely have to hunt more often to protect the crops. And thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next video.